Well, hey there, Catherine Langman here, and welcome to today's episode of the Productpreneur Success Podcast. And have you ever experienced times in your business where, maybe it feels like you're just not getting enough done, or, maybe that some of the things that you are doing just takes up way too much of your time, or maybe you've had that sort of experience where you've tried to delegate something to someone else and then find yourself maybe either unhappy with how they're doing it or at a loss with what else you should do now that they're doing the thing. Just this morning in our academy group, I was on a call with a bunch of our clients having a conversation about some of these things. And I think, really it's only human nature that by default, we end up working on the things that come naturally to us and that we that we really love to do. Usually we fall into one of two kind of personality categories. We're either more of a creative or a visionary sort of person, or we're, maybe a little bit more of a logical and detail or process oriented kind of person. Unfortunately, when we're running an e-commerce type business, we need to have both skill sets, right? And, there will always be tasks involved in running an online business that fall into one or other of those categories. But an e-commerce business really takes both types. So half the time we find ourselves working against the grain, which feels like hard work, and it can be really taxing and tiring. And it often takes us a whole lot longer to get stuff done than compared to when we stick to our zone of genius, right? And typically, when you are starting up or you're in the early stages of your business, you kind of do need to wear all the hats and do all of the things, but you should never stay there indefinitely if you really want to grow your business. I can tell you now, you'll probably burn out and you'll end up hating it half the time. So you really need to work out how to get the right help at the right time, and ultimately spend your time where you can have the biggest impact as the owner or the founder. So to help me unpack this topic today, I'm welcoming one of my colleagues, Narelle Spencer, back onto the show. So Narelle is a really talented e-commerce growth strategist, and she helps a whole number of our clients scale their business. And she's also been a business owner herself for many years. And so with those two perspectives, she can bring a whole lot of experience and wisdom to this conversation. So without further ado, let's welcome Narelle onto the show. Welcome back onto the show, Narelle. I know we've had you here a few times, but it's always good to have you here.
Thanks, Kath. It's good to be here. Back again for 2023 now, another year.
Another year. And, for me, I feel like this year is going to be, it's shaping up already to be a much better one than last year, which was, of course, very unpredictable in lots of different ways. So, yeah, we're going to have a conversation about what to do when you are, delegating or outsourcing parts of your business. And so, there's a little bit of a process about doing that, recognizing when it's time to do that. And then what else do you do once you've actually got some help? Because, these are all new and different things for lots of business owners as they start to grow their business. And, obviously in your role, you're working with a lot of entrepreneurs at different stages. So, in the academy, there are people who are super early stage and they're doing everything themselves still. And then as they start to scale and grow, they are actually getting help in various different ways. So you're kind of seeing the whole spectrum.
I have, and it is hard with them. You're right, with that spectrum of people, and that change of mindset for them is really difficult as well. And I know myself that, you can get stuck in just the day-to-day and be blurred and the blinkers are on and you're just like, I've just got to get the job done. And you forget that, hang on, I could outsource this and I could free up my time to actually, grow the business further. So yeah, this is a good conversation to have.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, I think the first thing that we'll talk about is, when, like, the different ways that you can actually offload stuff off your plate. So, obviously we can automate or we can delegate or we can outsource, and they're going to be suitable for different sorts of tasks and maybe different stages of business. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think the automate probably is that first step for a lot of people who are just, single entrepreneurs by themselves in their business. They need to just work out those processes that they can automate in their business. And a lot of that comes down to, planning, really, I think, by having things like content planners and things like that, like invest the time in, half a day to map that out. And, then the next time that you touch that again, it could be like a couple of days later and you can just bang out all of that content. So that's, really automating the process rather than every day turning up going, oh gosh, what am I going to do today? And then you have to procrastinate around what is it, that content that you're going to post or what are you going to create today. So yeah, automating is probably the first one for many small businesses who are in their business by themselves.
Yeah, automating, and you can use tools for some of that, whether it's scheduling content in advance, emails, social content, ads. And of course, everybody who's listened to this podcast knows how much of a fan I am of using email automation as well to help, which also is super efficient way to use your time. But, we all get to that point, don't we, where it's like, okay, I've done all of that, and I guess there's always room to automate more, but you can still hit a wall with how much you can do in a day or a week. So something else needs to start to give.
Yeah, that's right. And I guess it's not only just time, it's also like, is it a good time to, outsource this or delegate to somebody who's more of an expert? We all can't be experts of absolutely everything, so, if you start to outsource to the people who actually really know, that's when you can start to see a real difference in that part of your business.
Definitely. Yeah. So just this morning, actually, in our academy group, I was working with a few of the clients in there on they're looking to really, it's about streamlining the content creation, which is a very time consuming thing. And I would say for e-commerce, that's probably one of the first things that most people do need to get some help with. But, it's a pretty common experience for a lot of business owners to just, they get so busy that something has to give. So they outsource something like social media content to somebody else, and then it kind of doesn't happen in the way that they like. And it sort of fails a little bit. And so, then they feel like, oh, I just have to keep doing everything myself. So, because that person didn't get it, which should we go down that rabbit hole today?
I know it's such a trap. Like, I have to admit that, like, I guess that when you are outsourcing or delegating, I mean, I know that even I think of it in my own family, start to delegate a few of the jobs around the home and it's not done to the way that I like. And so then you're like, oh, I'll take that back. I do it better. That is not the way to do it. You need to, step back. And you need to just give that guidance to the person or whoever you're outsourcing to what your expectations are. And I guess that's, one of the things that you could be working on as an owner if you start to outsource. Like, look at the documentation of the processes and things like that. Like, really start to get that nutted out so that, when you do pass it off, everything's in black and white and there's, everyone knows what the expectation is then.
Yeah, definitely. I always think about that, relate this to the home as well, because I remember years ago when my kids were younger in primary school, and I kind of thought, well, my mum made me make my lunches from when I was in grade 1, so my kids are going to do that too. And I reckon they were the only boys in, year 1 and 2 who were making their own lunches. It was probably like a Vegemite sandwich and they would have left lots of mess.
Yeah.
But, other mums are like, oh, I'm not going to do that because they just make too much mess. And it's like, well, you just have to train them. You have to teach them. So it's a bit like that in business, right?
Yeah, and they won't always get it right the first time. And especially, like I was saying, like, if you haven't outlined what your expectations are around that, like if you haven't explained to them you wanted it made and, make sure you clean up afterwards, because we just naturally just do it.
Right.
And you've got to expect that, when they have finished, they sort of just put the knife down and off they go.
Yeah, exactly. So let's just quickly define the difference between delegating and outsourcing. So, in my mind, delegating might be whether you hire somebody on your team or perhaps you hire a freelancer or a contractor or something along those lines. Whereas outsourcing to me means going to a team, like whether it's an agency or whether it's a team that kind of specializes in that sort of area?
Yeah, I would sort of agree, because I feel like, in my mind as well, delegating is, there's still a bit more of a hands-on aspect to it, where you're probably managing them more. Whereas outsourcing, the expectation around that would be that, yeah, you've got this team who are the experts. So, you are becoming part of their team as such, so you're working together on whatever it is, like whether it's the marketing and ads and things like that. So you work together for the best outcome.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess just a tip too for anyone who is looking to start outsourcing versus delegating, you definitely want to pick somebody who can actually explain their processes to you. I guess most of us would be outsourcing when we get to the point where actually we aren't the expert in that area. And so we want to hire somebody who is, like you were saying. So if somebody is an expert, they should be able to explain their step-by-step process to you, or the way they strategize and plan and execute. So just a little tip there.
Good tip.
So let's talk about what else can you do if you're the business owner who has, you've started to delegate some of your areas of your business or outsourced. What do you do next with your time?
Well, I guess the first one was almost what I touched on before, is, getting those processes in place and that documentation really, in order to help whoever you're either delegating or outsourcing to, so that, they've got the brand guidelines, or that, if you go back and take a look at it from a perspective of, okay, we're getting a copywriter in, and so, they need to know the tone of voice. So getting together some examples of that. If you're getting a designer to do ads or any part of, it might be email marketing, again, nutting out what your design looks like from your brand's perspective, and what you do like and what you don't like. And it just makes the process so much easier and quicker for everyone, because if there's some deadlines that quick turnover, which does happen, especially when there's campaigns that you kind of need to get out in time for specific sort of events and things like that. If that's all in play already, it means that that whoever you're working with can quickly get those creatives together for you and have an ad up or an email out for you, fairly instantly.
Yes. So what you like and what you don't like in terms of the visuals and the wording. I reckon Pinterest is very helpful here for examples of the visual side of things.
Yeah.
But yeah, also the wording as well. I remember years ago working with a amazing woman entrepreneur in Sydney. She was in the automotive industry, actually, which is pretty unusual for women. So not e-commerce, but digital stuff. And she had the best looking brand guidelines in terms of tone of voice that I've ever seen, because it literally went through lots of very specific ways. We do communicate like this, and had examples of wording and phrasing, and then we don't say it like this. So, you don't end up giving or receiving content that maybe is like full of emojis, but you hate emojis because you're more of a formal educating type. Yeah.
That sounds great. Yeah. I mean, I really do love the don'ts that do, like, when I'm working with clients as well, like, I know that we all can say what we love, but sometimes just by getting that feedback of what they don't love, especially from, a visual guide, like, it really probably helps more than that do's.
Yeah, true. You can do. Yeah. Don't fall into the trap of people just doing whatever they feel like on the day, I guess.
Yes.
So what else should people move on to? Like, once if you're the business owner and you start to get some help with various parts of your business, then what do you do next? Particularly once you've started to, document some of these processes and things. Or actually, maybe we should talk about, like, how do you figure out what process you should look at next?
That's a good question. What do you look at next? Well, I guess that once you've sort of outsourced, though, there's probably then it's a matter of like looking at the business from a perspective of, okay, what haven't we looked at for a long time as well? Like I think that sometimes because we get stuck in the business, there's things like your website, I especially think in e-commerce that that gets untouched for a long time. Often, the times that it gets changed up or looked at again is, there's I think of Shopify just now moving to 2.0, so most people use that as an opportunity, but realistically it's your shop front, so it should be looked at more often than that. You don't walk past a shop down the high street and their front window looks the same for 3 years.
No, true.
So I kind of feel like that's one of the things that that people forget about as well. So I mean, it's probably very specific, but it is what people see first, the first impression of you and your business. So I think that it does get missed a lot.
Yeah, no, you're probably right there. If I think back to my website, maybe I probably need to have a look at that. I don't think I've changed the homepage for a little while. That's by the by. But yeah, I think looking at the things that you haven't looked at for a while, where are you finding the bottlenecks? Maybe also, I think you were saying to me earlier before we jumped on, what do you hate doing?
Oh yes, I forgot about that. Yes, what do you hate doing? You shouldn't be hanging on to that.
No, yeah, there's that. I don't know if you've ever done this, the time-sucking monster exercise. It's just keeping timesheets, but it's a more interesting way to label that job. But literally, figuring out how much time you spend on things, and like if you're the business owner and you're spending half your week creating Instagram content or packing orders, obviously both those things need to happen, but how much growth is that time potentially going to create for you? Probably not that much. So trying to identify those areas that A, you don't like doing, and B, aren't going to drive growth in the business would be good to outsource. Yeah.
I think I was reading just recently that, that split, I think someone was saying should be like 20% of that doing the processing of the orders or content creators, and 80% of, then working on the strategy and things like that. I think that often is the case. It's the reverse.
The way around.
People. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I've heard that stat, but that is, makes sense. Yeah. So when people outsource to us, obviously they're at a stage in business where they are ready to really grow, and they are in the process of scaling up. But they're buying back a whole lot of time as well. So what are the things that they can do that can really help amplify the results that we might get for them?
Yeah, well, one of the biggest ones, and it's kind of come up more and more often in the past sort of probably 12 months, is content creation, because we've definitely gone from a model where just having static images is fine, and most of us could do that fairly simple on our phone and just bang out a whole heap of photos. Now we actually need videos, and it's not just videos created by ourselves. It's actually videos created by, brand ambassadors or, customers. And that actually takes a lot of time to come about. It doesn't just instantly happen. And the other thing is you actually do have to put a bit of effort into it, because it's very difficult, especially from a customer's perspective. Like if you're wanting people to leave a video review or something like that, you really need to engage with them. You can't just be like, send out an email or just do a post and people are going to respond and you'll have 100 videos in your inbox. That just doesn't happen. And I think that the more, like, it's such a valuable thing because it can be utilized in so many different ways. It can be utilized in ads, it can be utilized in emails, it can be utilized on the website, that owners just don't put enough effort into getting that content yet. I don't think we've kind of got to that point where we know it just has to be done. It's become a task that they have to do.
Yeah. And it feels bigger than Ben-Hur, and probably mostly for people who would identify a little bit on the introverted side of things, which you just would feel even more confronting us, I imagine, to try and tackle that task. which is, I mean, it's a bit of a different topic. We can definitely point people in the direction of some content we've got on, brand rep programs and getting a system around how to collect that and make it a little bit more streamlined process so that it's not all on the individual. But you're right, there is a much bigger onus on having more of that type of content, and it shouldn't actually be polished video either. I know there's one of our mastery clients who comes from a kind of a big corporate marketing background, and she's such a visionary person and loves to operate on that plane. But at the end of the day, going for that kind of big ticket, super polished solution for this actually works worse than your user generated kind of some video content that looks native to a social platform, right?
Yep. And that's what we are finding more and more that's what's working across the board. So
and it works organically too.
Sorry, what was that?
It works organically too, getting the reach that way and training the algorithm, which of course I'm a big fan of that. So
I actually think that once you kind of put in the processes around collecting that, again, it's, just making it easier for yourself. I think that it would just become so rewarding as well, receiving those sorts of videos about your brand, about your products, that, you're probably more inclined to keep going in and sourcing more.
Yeah, absolutely. There's nothing more enjoyable than receiving praise from your customers, which is essentially what it is, right?
Yeah.
So that's super cool. Something else that a few of our clients are doing right now is getting ready to appear at trade shows and expos. So that kind of time of year is about to hit us, where those events are happening. And that's another way to get your brand in front of a whole lot of people, right? So, just generally, I guess my comment would be, what else can you do to get to grow your brand awareness, to get your brand in front of new people who would be your ideal customer but don't know you exist yet? Even traditional PR, like there's a lot of different ways that you can increase that audience size, right?
I think that the PR side of things, it kind of feels like it's old school, but it's always been there, but we've kind of veered off that track for a bit. But I do, it's definitely, there's so many avenues for PR online. I think that traditionally, obviously, the PR tended to be newspapers and, print magazines and things like that. So we kind of forgot about it for a long time. But, online, PR is all around different websites and blogs and podcasts, all sorts of things like that. And I think when it comes to the PR for a business, the person who has the best story is the brand owner. They've got the passion for their brand or their product. And if you can tell your story, more than likely, you're going to get some PR out of that, because you're just so passionate about it and there's going to be a story in it.
Yeah, 100%. Which reminds me actually of another one of our academy clients who is in the process of running quite a large survey and has a lot of responses already, which is amazing. But her plan is to then actually get, draw out the insights in a way that she can use it for some, outreach to media for PR. And, what a fantastic way to use that data. I mean, obviously she can use that data to inform all of the other advertising and marketing as well, but why not, get a little bit more leverage out of it? So.
Yeah, it's funny you should talk about the customer survey side of things, because I think that is another thing that, you can do once you start outsourcing as well. And again, that information then helps whoever, you've got outsourced to. But, it helps you understand who your customer is again. Maybe your customer has changed, but then maybe there's opportunity there for you to expand on your products. And, there's an opportunity there that you can tap into and then do a bit more product development. But the survey will help you find that. If you don't know it straight away, you might know it straight away. But if not, if you tap into them and their answers, it'll be there in black and white.
Yeah, definitely. And yes, product development is a fantastic, thing to spend time on when you're not busy running absolutely everything, because I mean, even just from a sales perspective, if you can increase the number of purchases a customer makes with you, then you're going to be a lot more profitable than a one-time customer model. And, you know, having something else to sell is pretty helpful in that regard.
And I think that it's probably another way of doing that as well, even if it's not product development. Like, you know, if you don't have the funds to invest in product development, the same could be said, but just looking at it and segmenting your customers. So you want to try and obviously retain them and bring them back in. So maybe it's a matter of like looking at them and say, okay, well, we know that after 6 months, a lot of our customers purchase this product. So then by segmenting your customers, then you can start to use your email automation and going out to them and putting some flows in place. So then, you know, you're generating income without having to go through that product development side of things as well.
Yeah, I was on the receiving end of a very successful similar automation from a skincare brand recently. So
perfect.
Yeah, that worked. I don't know, did it? Operations would be another area that business owners and brand owners could spend a little bit of time refining and hopefully, you know, improving, streamlining all of that kind of stuff once they've outsourced some things.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's always processes, especially if you know, in product e-com and you're picking and packing yourself and things. But I guess that, you know, then you can start working on, you know, what is the next side of the business? Is it pick and pack that I want to outsource next? So if that's the case, you know, what's the strategy around that? So, you know, you're building up that business plan around that, you know, working out the processes in order to outsource that. And then you're reaching that goal and you're outsourcing that thing. And the next thing you move on to is, you know, another part of your business that you can outsource. You know, I think it's important to look at it not from just one perspective of your business where, you know, it's not just marketing, it's, you know, other parts of the business.
Yeah, definitely. For any kind of exhausted business owners out there who have been feeling like, oh, I can't possibly make more money because I can't work any harder, hopefully this kind of gives you a little bit of an idea of how, you know, in an iterative, you know, step-by-step approach, you know, we keep kind of chipping away at automating, delegating and outsourcing, that ultimately you end up with a business that's quite streamlined and not as overwhelming and onerous as perhaps it is in the early stages. It is always tiring in the early stages. I don't think any of us can get away from that, but it doesn't have to stay like that if we can take these sorts of steps as we grow.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. And I mean, when I see like businesses that do all that, then I see that, you know, the business owners start to go, oh, maybe there's another business that I can start up or work on. And it happens more often than not.
Yeah, it sure does. So long as that, you know, and this is just me talking from experience to anyone listening, don't start that next business until you really have kind of streamlined the one you've got, because if you're trying to push too many really big projects up the hill at once, it just doesn't move and it's pretty extra tiring.
That's true.
Oh dear, absolutely. So any last kind of thoughts or ideas for our listeners on what they could spend their time well on once they start to delegate and outsource?
Just concentrating like on their business and not fully concentrating on, you know, who you've outsourced to. Work with them. Don't, you know, I guess what does come into mind is micromanaging sometimes, that can come into play. And I think we touched on that at the start with your great example of sandwiches.
Yes.
But yeah, just be mindful of where your time is being spent. So probably sit back and go, hang on, what was I actually doing something that was, you know, a task that I've outsourced, or am I doing a task that's actually, you know, going to grow the business and not that one that I just outsourced?
Yeah, true. So doing that time-sucking monster. I think one thing that I would just add to that as well is to spend a bit of time at the end of every month, or perhaps the start of the next month, to actually build in the review process where you're looking at all of your reports and your metrics. And so, I mean, we talk a lot on this podcast about advertising and marketing related metrics, but as a business owner, you're looking at the whole P&L as well, and just looking at, what the numbers and the trends are telling you over time, because that's really where you should, or how you should be making your decisions. It should be informed by what those results are telling you, not by, what you feel like on the day.
Yes. No, I think that's
sure,
a great.
we're all guilty of that at times, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think that it'll just help you move towards, the next phase of your business. If you're watching those numbers, then, it's going to be clear what direction you should be taking next.
Yeah, totally. Well, thank you for jumping on again with me today, Narelle. Hopefully this conversation is helpful for some of our listeners. And I do have a couple of podcasts that I've done in the past that might just help people really figure out what they should be doing and at each stage of their business growth. So I might see if I can link to some of that in the podcast show notes as well. But yeah, hopefully that's been a good conversation for everyone. Thanks for jumping on.
Thanks, Kath. Thanks, everyone.
So before we wrap up the episode, I know we've said goodbye to Narelle, but before we wrap things up, I just want to direct you to a couple of really helpful past podcast episodes for any of you really wanting to work out what to automate, delegate, and outsource, and how to approach growing through these phases of your business. So firstly, I want you to go back into the archives to my first interview with Lisa Munro from Happy Tummies, which is called Systemize to Supercharge Growth. So if you've ever felt like, it'll just take too long to teach someone, so it'll be easier if I just do it myself, the old, kids making their lunch trick, or I can't outsource this because no one knows how to do it just like me. So if those two thoughts have ever entered your head, then this episode is for you. So in it, Lisa shares her really fantastic step-by-step process for documenting systems and processes. Yes, I realize this sounds like an incredibly boring topic. I promise you she makes it not boring. And the potential upside from doing this is absolutely massive. Now, for Lisa, she was prompted to do this in her business after a bout of illness that really left her out for the count for a little while, and she realized that actually no one else knew how her business operated, which kind of leaves her customers suffering, right? They need what she sells in her business. So what happened was no one could help with ordering or pick and pack or with the marketing, and it was a complete and utter disaster. But afterwards, though, her systems have made it really easy for her to expand quickly, and also with the confidence that everything will be done exactly the way that she wants it. Next, so there's 3 episodes I want to recommend to you. So the second one is an interview that I did with Christy Rigby from Baby Aiders Australia, and it's called The 3 Essential Pillars That Created a 7-Figure Brand. So this one is going to be a good one for you if you, as an entrepreneur, you constantly are looking for that secret silver bullet strategy that will, finally take your business from struggling to flourishing. Or if you feel easily distracted by shiny objects and find yourself jumping from one thing to the next, hoping that it's going to, be that one thing that changes everything overnight. And I will say all of those sorts of traits are so very common. I think it's kind of built into the entrepreneur's DNA to always be looking for that next big thing. And in this episode, Christy shares how, that really, she really relates with that as well. So in the episode, in the interview, Christy shares how she really discovered the 3 essential strategies that, they're the core pillars really that she was able to apply to her business and saw it grow from a startup to a 7-figure a year turnover brand, and finally enabled her to really focus on growing her business instead of looking at what everyone else was doing. So to quote her from the interview, she says, "I know as an entrepreneur, I'm always looking for, has someone else found a new silver bullet for getting more sales? I'm always looking for that. I love shiny things. They intrigue me because I'm an entrepreneur and that's how we're designed. But the reality is there is no silver bullet." So Christy shares with us what she did strategy-wise, but also the mindset changes that she needed to make as a business owner in order for her business to grow. And as she says in the interview, sometimes it takes the business owner growing to grow a business. And then the third episode I really want to recommend that you go and listen to is one that I recorded called 3 Critical Requirements to Scale or Sell Your Brand. Now, if you're an e-commerce brand owner looking to either, one day sell your business, or that you want to scale it so that you can spend less time in your business, then this episode is for you. And it's actually also for you if you're finding yourself feeling really crazily overwhelmed and not feeling like you're not making enough money to make that level of hard work worth it, that, that's why you want to sell your business. Please listen to this first, because I can guarantee that kind of a reactive need to sell your business in that way is probably not going to get you a price you are looking for. So if you want to get a good price when you sell, listen to this first. Anyhow, for many brand owners, the prospect of either selling or scaling, equally feels out of reach. And so you find yourself spending each and every day doing absolutely everything, kind of hustling, basically doing whatever you can to make things work. And it just doesn't seem plausible that you could one day step away. The business owner doing all the hustle is just not an attractive prospect at all. It's not attractive for you as the business owner, working like that day in, day out indefinitely. And it's not an attractive proposition for someone else to buy either. So if you want to sell your business. So in this episode, I share with you the 3 strategies that you need to have in place in your business in order to scale and grow sustainably. And, that means financially viably and profitably, and also in terms of your own physical exertion so that you don't burn yourself out. Plus, it's the way that you can set your business up for the best sale price as well. So, this is the episode that you want to listen to start preparing your brand for growth, or, to get investors in, or to sell. Now, I will make sure that we link to all of those 3 episodes in the show notes for this episode. So you can just head to katherineLangman.com/episode-161, and you'll find the links to all those episodes there. And on that note, that brings me to the end of today's episode. So I really hope that you've enjoyed it, and maybe you picked up some new ideas or some episodes that you'll listen to that will help you as you endeavor to scale and grow your business this year. Of course, if you would like some help to speed up that process of learning or implementing and getting results faster, please just reach out to me, because there are a variety of ways that I can help you depending on which stage of business that you're at. And this is, what myself and Narelle and the rest of the team do every single day, and we love it. So whether you're looking for coaching to help learn and implement things faster, or you're looking to outsource to an expert, just head over to katherineLangman.com/work-with-me to find out about working with me, and we'll link to that on the podcast show notes as well. For now, have a fantastic rest of the day and week, and I look forward to being with you on the show again next week. Bye for now.